This film begins with a 20-year-old girl named Katya who lived in a small village in Russia with her grandfather named Ivan because her father has died and her mother has remarried. Ivan himself was a Second World War veteran who was enjoying his retirement peacefully. In that neighborhood, 3 spoiled boys often flirted with the girls without caring about the consequences. They made Wednesdays their party days where they always took the girls to join them forcefully, but on one Wednesday they couldn't find girls who were interested in partying with them, and when they were trying to find one, their gaze fell on Katya. Vadim, one of them, was Katya's classmate back in high school. When he realized that his friends wanted Katya to join them, he agreed to the plan and rushed downstairs with Igor to invite Katya to join. Katya hesitated, but they said that it was their friend, Boris's birthday, and only Katya could make him happy, but she still refused to go because his grandfather was waiting at home. The boys insisted she join them, and in the end, she agreed to accompany them for 5 minutes, and then she would leave. She then saw bottles of alcohol on the table when she arrived. She didn't feel comfortable but didn't want to be rude. The boys then offered her a glass of alcohol and encouraged her to drink it. She then showed them her talent in singing, and they told her to sing for Igor. Boris secretly put drugs in her glass while she was distracted. As the boys got closer to her, she felt more uncomfortable and wanted to leave, but when she walked to the door, she felt dizzy. The boys then dragged her into another room and then surrounded her. Their intentions were clearly visible, but she was helpless to defend herself. Boris held her down and then raped her. Hours later, Katya had given up to fight back and the boys had finished their intention. So they finally let her go and paid her money to keep her silent. She was so traumatized that she was barely able to speak. She then walked away, threw away all the money, and then returned home, leaving his classmate, Vadim, who was actually worried that they would get into trouble. On the other hand, the other 2 were confident that nothing would happen to them because Vadim's father's position as a high-ranking officer in the police force would keep them safe. Katya then arrived home and sobbed on the floor. When Ivan saw the scar on her thigh, he knew what had happened. He was furious and asked who did it to her, and after finding out that it was the boys, he then went to their apartment to punish them. On the way, a neighbor stopped him and suggested that they call the police first. After they called, a group of police burst into the apartment and arrested the boys. The inspector was so mad and was about to beat them, but the boys denied having done anything wrong, so the inspector took them into separate rooms to investigate them separately and threatened to put them in the same prison as the murderers who would torture them as they did to Katya. Afraid, Boris finally admitted that he had brought Katya to the house and then raped her. At that time, Vadim's father, a police colonel named Nikolai, arrived at the scene. He talked to the inspector and tried to use his authority to take the boys to his office so that he could handle the matter himself, but the inspector claimed that the boys had confessed and that the police had found a piece of paper with Katya's blood on it, implying that they were guilty and must be arrested immediately. When Nikolai insisted on taking the prisoners, the inspector told him that he had to have a warrant for that matter. A junior officer then revealed that the boys had a women's day every Wednesday and had been behaving badly with several women. Everyone in the neighborhood agreed that the boys were a bunch of perverts who should be jailed immediately. Nikolai then left for a while, but he was determined to free his son and his son's friends. Ivan woke up the next morning scared because he couldn't find Katya anywhere. Soon, Katya was heard from the toilet, complaining that she couldn't stand looking at herself in the mirror. Ivan felt sorry for his granddaughter, but he had no way to make her feel better. He was about to call a female doctor from upstairs to examine her, but Katya refused, saying that she didn't want anyone to know what happened to her. Ivan then added that all the neighbors already knew because of the police search that happened yesterday, and Katya shouldn't be afraid of this. Katya believed that she would be known as the girl who had been deprived for the rest of her life. Ivan tried to calm her down. The doctor then examined Katya and found that she was sick. She advised Katya to stay at home to recover. A few days later, Ivan found out that the boys were released thanks to Nikolai's influence. He got angry and determined to bring his granddaughter to court. He and Katya then met a police officer to appeal to the court, but the police turned out to be an officer who had been bribed by Nikolai. He chuckled at Katya's story and accused her of being too nice to the men. He believed Katya had deliberately gone to their apartment to have fun with them so that one of them would marry her. Katya was disappointed to hear this, but she didn't dare to fight and instead wanted to forget everything. But Ivan, on the other hand, didn't want to let this situation go by like that. He then went looking for the boys the next day and found them hanging out in a car. When the boys asked him what he wanted, Ivan said that he had memorized their faces and walked away. The boys, on the other hand, believed that they were invincible. They didn't think much about it, not realizing that they had made the biggest mistake of their lives. After meeting the boys, Ivan approached his old acquaintance, a judge, and asked for help, but the judge told him that he should raise Katya better so that she wouldn't become a prostitute. Ivan was so shocked to hear that and then insulted him and immediately left. After everything that happened, Ivan then decided to take matters into his own hands. He then went to a realtor and sold his vacation home worth $5,000 and intended to use the money to get revenge. When he came home, Katya told him that Nikolay visited their house to give her an envelope of money. Upon hearing that, Ivan took the envelope and went to Nikolay's place to return it. Katya then told him that her aunt had left them the key to her apartment so they could look after the place and her pet birds when she wasn't there. When Ivan went to the apartment, he realized that the boy's apartment was right in front of that apartment. Knowing this, he intended to use this location to carry out his action. After that, Ivan went to the market and met a legal arms dealer who tried to sell him a gun. When Ivan asked for a sniper rifle, the seller looked nervous and said that he did not have such a weapon. Ivan was ready to leave when another seller approached him and said that he heard their conversation. He said that he had what Ivan was looking for and was willing to sell him at the right price. After that, Ivan was taken to a hidden place where the sellers showed various firearms. Ivan was interested in one special sniper rifle which he then purchased. He tried the weapon and did not miss a single shot. Ivan then asked for a silencer, which made the seller suspect that Ivan had purchased it for a criminal purpose. Ivan then returned home in the evening to find Katya's mother had returned from Turkey with her new partner. She was never really present in Katya's life and was too busy with her life with her boyfriends. She gave them gifts and looked very happy to be back. She also told his daughter to forget what had happened and live happily. Sometime later, the mother told Ivan that she needed some money, and that was when Ivan realized that she came not for Katya, but for money. When he confronted her, she admitted it and threatened to take the money from Nikolay instead. Hearing this, Ivan threw her out of the house and told her not to show her face again. The next morning, Ivan went to the park to watch his neighbors play chess. When he saw the kids entering their apartment, he snuck into Katya's aunt's house, which had a perfect view of the boy's apartment, and shot Boris, killing him instantly. He then returned to his friends after hiding the gun and acted as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Boris was taken to the hospital by his friends. After that, Nikolay asked Igor and Vadim what had happened. He was sure that they were playing with guns when they accidentally shot Boris. Both denied they were playing with a gun and that they were just chatting. Nikolay then warned them, thinking that there was someone who was trying to take revenge on the three of them. After the attack, the inspector suspected Ivan as the mastermind behind all this because he had every reason he needed to take revenge. The inspector knew that Nikolay would come for Ivan sooner or later. Ivan then returned to Katya's aunt's house a few days later, where this time he targeted Igor. The boy was then seen driving his car listening to music and not caring about his surroundings. Ivan then shot the car's gas tank, causing it to explode. Igor came out of the car with his lower body engulfed in flames. The people nearby tried to save him, but the accident burned his entire lower body up to the third-level burn, making him unable to stand up. Nikolay was sure that his son would be the next victim. He warned Vadim to be careful and secure the house because the shooter could appear at any time. Vadim was frightened by that thought and became worried. After some time, the inspector decided to come to Katya's house to meet Ivan and discuss the accident. But he couldn't find Ivan there. Katya revealed that his grandfather often visited her aunt's house to look after her aunt's birds. The inspector then realized that the property was right across the road from Boris's apartment, which was where the accident happened. He then stole the key to the apartment to check if his suspicion was right. Soon, Nikolay and other corrupt police arrived at Ivan's house with a search warrant. They were sure that Ivan was responsible for the accident and wanted to look for any evidence, but they couldn't find anything after checking the whole house. Katya's aunt then arrived in front of the door and asked for her key. Hearing that, the police decided to search her apartment too. Ivan was worried because he hid the sniper in her apartment, but the police checked every area and still couldn't find anything. Nikolay then begged Ivan not to hurt his son, but Ivan said that he had got what he deserved. Nikolay took it seriously and rushed to see Vadim. After he left, Ivan explained that he didn't do anything to Vadim, but his sins would punish him sooner or later. When Nikolay arrived at the house, he banged on the door begging for Vadim to open it. and in return, he was shot through the door by his son, who thought that his father was someone who tried to kill him. Vadim seemed to lose his sanity after days of being terrorized. The police decided to send him to a psychiatrist, but his chances of rehabilitation were very small. The inspector then invited Ivan to his house and told him that he had taken the sniper before the police found it. He knew that Ivan was doing the right thing, and he just wanted to warn him not to do the extreme again. Ivan then returned home and found Katya singing a song implying that she was slowly recovering from her trauma.